So my first 2 months was spent in Floripa, just near the beach. So I was just working, teaching, surfing, and chilling out, doing nothing, spending a lot of time doing a lot of nothing.
Sounds like a
So
pretty good time. What's up, what's up, what's up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome back to another British English conversation with another guest who, well, I met up with him about a year ago, maybe, and we had a similar chat asking him about himself, introducing himself, and going over lots of random stuff. So I thought, why not bring him back and catch up and see what's new? So anyway, enough from me and on to him. Finn, welcome back to the channel.
hello. Thank you for having me back. Yeah, I think it was just over a year ago that I was last here.
Exactly. Time flies, doesn't it?
It does indeed. Still the same white background though. I think I need to to change that up a little bit.
And it's interesting because the last time we met up, it was the first time that we had connected. Then after that, we proceeded to work together for a number of months. And now we've not been working together for a few months and we're back. So life goes round and round in circles, doesn't it?
It does indeed. Yeah, and I feel like we've been a lot closer as well, messaging on Instagram and stuff and kind of sharing bits of advice and tips and recommendation. Well, I feel like that's a bit one-sided, but hopefully I'll be able to contribute a little bit more to that soon.
No, 100%. Now, for those of the audience that don't know you, don't recognize you, let's make it short and snappy. And Finn, just tell us, where are you from? What do you do? And what are your interests? Introduce yourself, as I say, on many occasions, in a nutshell.
Nice. Yeah, so my name's Finn. I'm from Cornwall in the very southwest of England. And I've lived here since I think I moved in 2008. So I must have been about 7. And I'm 24 now. I've just turned 24. So you guys can do the maths on that one.
Happy
Um,
belated birthday.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I went to Cardiff University. I studied Spanish and Portuguese and translation, actually. So yeah, Spanish, Portuguese, and translation. My interests. So I really like surfing. I'd say that's my favorite activity. But in the UK, that's not something that you can just do all year round. It's very weather and, well, not really weather dependent, very wave dependent, let's say. So you need some good waves. And obviously in the winter, it's a little bit colder as well. But other than that, a little bit of running, a little bit of swimming, a little bit of the gym, and yeah, I would say that's what's consuming pretty much all of my Instagram algorithm at the minute.
Uh-huh. So I want to know a little bit more about the surfing part because I'm back in the UK at the moment. We're recording this at the beginning of September. Yesterday it was a beautiful sunny day. I went for a walk around my hometown, recording some videos, and I was sweating. I was going over some synonyms for very, very hot, talking about how this had been the hottest summer and maybe driest summer in the UK on record. And then I wake up today and it's pissing it down. It's been pouring it down all day. So, related to that, when the weather isn't very good in winter, when it's rainy, when it's cold and it's windy, how do you motivate yourself to go out, put your wetsuit on, and go surfing? Because it takes a lot of balls.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think, well, even though it's an individual sport, normally I meet up with my friends and we all go together, so that helps. And I think the idea of my friends going and then we use the or the verb to score a lot. So if my friends go and they score good waves, and if I'm just sat at home scrolling on Instagram whilst they've gone out and scored good waves, then I know that would make me feel terrible. So it's always a motivator to to get you to get yourself in the water, grow a pair of balls, and yeah, get in there.
And so, do you get FOMO? Do you get this fear of missing out when your mates are scoring good waves and you're back at home? Do you feel like, oh, I should have gone as well?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And they always say either, oh, it was really good or it was terrible. And you can never believe them no matter what they say. You don't know if they're just trying to make you jealous, or they just had a terrible surf maybe, and they're trying to make you think that it was really good to make you jealous, when actually they're just they're just having you on.
Mhm. Perfect. Nice phrasal verb. They're just having you on. What does it mean?
Mhm. So they're just lying to you. They're leading you to believe something that's not true, in a jokey way, I guess. They're making a joke out of it.
Perfect. And we shouldn't confuse to have someone on, like to joke or kid with them, with to have someone over. Because, for example, if you are organizing, let's say, a party at your house, or you're organizing a dinner at your house, you can have some friends over. You have them over for dinner, which is basically to host them at your house. So have someone on is to like joke with them, to take the piss, to pull their leg, and have someone over is to host them at their house. But anyway, let's move on from this. And given that you mentioned that you've just turned 24, as I said, happy belated birthday. How did you celebrate? What did you do to, enjoy your birthday?
Thank you again. Well, actually, I went to park run with my girlfriend. My girlfriend is obsessed with park run, and I know they're not in every country. So if you're not familiar with it, it is, as it says on the tin, it's just running around a park, but it's an organized event every Saturday. In the UK, it starts at 9 a.m. So it's organized, but it's free.
Mhm.
So everybody that kind of sets it up and I was going to say runs the event, but that can be quite confusing. Runs it, not literally running it, but managing it and directing it. They're all volunteers. So yeah, my girlfriend somehow managed to convince me to do one of those
Woo woo!
on my birthday. And then I went for a surf with my friends, which was my idea. And then I went to the pub. My mate actually owns a brewery, or co-owns a microbrewery, I think
Okay.
is the technical term. So yeah, went up there, had a burger and a singular pint, and that was me done.
Just the one pint?
Just the one, yeah. Well, I actually did have another pint at a different pub before that. So that was it. That was me done. I was pretty tired after a pretty active day.
Exactly. I mean, it sounds like the surfing and the park run really took its toll on you. And to take its toll on someone means like to affect someone, usually negative, to mean that you end up being really tired. So all that running, surfing, paddling, the weather, it took its toll on you. So you could only have 2 pints on your birthday. Wow.
Yeah, very, very well behaved compared to years in the past.
Very mature for a 24-year-old.
Too mature, I think. Maybe I need to decrease my age next year.
Next year, it'll be the party of the century.
Yeah, I'll increase my age, but decrease my maturity, maybe.
No, no, perfect. No, anyway, today, basically, we're just having a chat, as you've noticed up until this point. And the plan is, as I might have mentioned last week, to have some regular British English guests on the podcast on these Wednesday videos. And of course, I'd like Finn to be one of these guests so we can chat about different topics, different weeks. So let us know in the comments if there are any questions that you'd specifically like myself and Finn to answer, or any topics that you'd like us to discuss. And well, we'd be more than happy to oblige and do it next time. But there's one thing that I'm curious about, and I might have mentioned it on previous podcasts with different guests, because I'm kind of fascinated by, in particular, a couple of countries in South America. One being Colombia, that I'm thinking about going there maybe for my honeymoon next year. But another candidate, another option is Brazil. Brazil! And Finn mentioned that he studied Spanish and Portuguese at university. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that earlier this year you spent, what, 1 month, 2 months, or even 3 months in Brazil? So, Finn, tell us about your experience. How was it?
Yeah, so I spent 3 months in Brazil. I think I left the UK at the end of March, I think, and then sort of towards the end of June, I came back. So I believe well, the last time we spoke, we got together, I think I mentioned about going to Mexico and then Brazil for my year abroad.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of my degree. So that time I was in the city of Belo Horizonte, and then I spent some time in Marizias in the state of Sao Paulo, but at the beach, not in the big city of Sao Paulo, but yeah, on the coast of the state of Sao Paulo. And this time I spent 2 months in Floripa or Florianopolis, which is in the south of Brazil. And it's not very well known by Europeans, I would say, and probably not Americans either. It's a big tourist hotspot for Brazilians and for some surrounding countries like Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay. But yeah, there weren't too many Europeans and Americans, Australians, um, especially not compared to Rio. Anyway, Rio is full of tourists everywhere, as you can imagine. So my first 2 months was spent in Floripa, just near the beach. So I was just working, teaching, surfing, and chilling out, doing nothing, spending a lot of time doing a lot of nothing.
Sounds like a
So
pretty good time.
yeah, yeah. So I made the most of that opportunity to do nothing and spent a lot of time in the hammock, which was very nice.
Beautiful. And you mentioned it's at the south of Brazil. How far south? Is it literally bordering Uruguay or whereabouts is it?
Um, Off the top of my
Oh,
head, it's not the very bottom, but it's far south. I think there are 2 or 3 more states below because it's in Santa Catarina. So I think there are at least 2 or 3 more states below it. But yeah, far enough south so that in their winter it does actually get relatively cold. Whereas I know in a lot of places in Brazil, it's what we would call summer all year round, or what we would call a heat wave all year round.
exactly. I mean, here we've got people complaining about the summer when the majority of the time in summer it's been like 23, 24 degrees, which for me is like the perfect weather, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a very good temperature. Yeah, very, very good temperature. I feel like past that, every time you leave the house, you start sweating quite a lot, and it makes you have to plan ahead quite a lot in that situation. Well, for me at least, anyway.
No, I'm a sweaty guy as well, so I feel you.
We're in the same boat.
Absolutely. But so why did you choose this place, Florianopolis? Because I've never heard of it either. I think I saw when you were posting some videos on Instagram that you tag the location, and I was like, Florianopolis? Where the hell's this? So, what made you kind of decide on this location and not go back to Sao Paulo, Rio, or further up the state towards like what's the name of the big cities, Bahia and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I think the first time I ever heard of it was when I mentioned about going to Brazil to one of my friends, and I think he had been on a family holiday when he was a lot younger, and he said go there. You must go there. So I kind of did a bit of research, and it's kind of the home of surfing in Brazil. It's kind of because it's a big island. Um, is it an island or is it? No, I think it is an island, but there are a couple of bridges that go across because it's right next to the mainland. But
Yeah.
it's a huge island, and there's, oh, I forget how many beaches, like 50 something big beaches as well. If you've ever seen Brazilian beaches, they're not exactly small. Um, and because it's an island, you get swell coming from all different directions. So it's a great place for surfing, and that was my main reason really. So I wanted to go to Rio as well, and I had never been to Rio, but I'd heard many things and heard that it can be quite crazy and busy. So I wanted 2 months of peace and tranquility before heading up to Rio.
Excellent. And how was this for your Portuguese? I imagine when you arrived, perhaps you felt a little bit rusty with your Portuguese. You needed to brush up on your Portuguese a little bit. So, yeah, what was the transformation like from the day you arrived and set foot back in Brazil to the day when you left and returned back to the UK?
Yeah, so it was incredibly rusty. I think rusty is an understatement because I think it had been pretty much a year since I last actually did anything in Portuguese, and that was my exams at the end of uni. So I've been a bit of a hypocritical language teacher, telling people that they need to expose themselves as much as possible to the language and then do absolutely nothing myself. So yeah, it was incredibly rusty, and it took a while to get back into it. But yeah, by the end, it I would say it caught back up to where it was the last time I left Brazil, because I would say that was the peak of my Portuguese, and then when I was back in the UK, it sort of deteriorated slowly whilst I was at uni, deteriorated even quicker where once I had left uni, and then it kind of got back up to where it was. But I'm actually calling my Brazilian mate this Sunday, so I'm going to have a bit of a, I guess, a level test to see how much deterioration has occurred since June.
Great. And since June, have you been trying to like stay on top of it and like do more reading or listening or watching series?
No.
At least you're honest. At least you're
Been
honest.
very, very misbehaved. I mean, my phone's in Portuguese, but I think that doesn't really help as much as you would imagine, because everything is very autopilot when you're on your phone. You know where everything is. So with some things it can help, but with a lot of things, maybe not as much as you would hope. But yeah, the odd bit, a few YouTube videos, some Instagram reels. If I kind of get onto that side of the algorithm, I'll have a couple days of more Brazilian content. But other than that, yeah, not as much as I should have been.
Oh, it'll come, it'll come. You know, motivation, I think it comes around in cycles where you'll have a month where you're really motivated with a language or with work. Then the next, you'll be feeling a little bit demotivated. And then the one after that, you'll be like, oh, yeah, let's do it. Like in my case, in August, luckily, I managed to get ahead with content in July. So then I didn't really need to do that much work in August apart from teaching some of my classes. And then I was almost looking forward to the beginning of September because traditionally, historically, September is a month where you think like it's a new me, a new beginning. It's like the second January of the year. So now I'm like really motivated, recording more of these videos, teaching more classes. But then maybe in October, I'd be like, oh, September's been busy. I need a holiday. I need to relax. So it's swings and roundabouts, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm feeling the same as you. So yeah, August has been relatively quiet in terms of work. I've done some extra little bits of work, but nothing related to English teaching. So I'm feeling a bit more motivated to get stuck into some classes in September. But like you say, I'm sure as soon as October rolls around, I'll be maybe lacking on the motivation. But it's only September, October, November, and then December always feels like a half month anyway. And then it's Christmas already. So
Clay,
there we go.
do you ever get a little bit worried or stressed out thinking about how quickly time is passing? Because this is something that I've been thinking about. And as I was recording with my mum the other day, and we were kind of reminiscing and looking back on my childhood and talking about it. And then she was telling me different stories. I was remembering these stories and thinking, like, oh, that was just like yesterday when I crashed my car when I was 17. I'm like, oh, I'm 33 this month, so that's almost like half a lifetime ago, and it's maybe stressing me out a little bit, but I prefer to stay young at heart.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing to do. A young mind is a young body. So yeah, I completely agree. I feel like ever since I left uni, time seems to have just, I don't know, just sped up, gone on twice as quickly.
Exactly. Hard times. But talking about reminiscing and looking back, what else did you do in summer? So in August, you mentioned you were doing some work, but not too much teaching. Did you go abroad? Did you go on any trips? Were you doing any other kind of work? Yeah. What did you get up to in August?
So no trips, unfortunately, but I have I guess is my friend, a guy that owns or co-owns a company called Event Water Safety. So there are two different bits of work, I guess. So one has been doing safety cover for some open water swims. So some in seas, yeah, in the sea and down some rivers as well. So essentially just floating down a river on a rescue board, just next to some swimmers, making sure that nobody drowns, essentially making sure that everybody is okay. And yeah, so I've kind of been around the southwest of England a little bit, nothing too major, but a little bit of that, and then also some out of hours lifeguarding. So in the UK we have the RNLI, the Royal National Lifeboat Institution, but they
Uh-huh.
also are in charge of beach lifeguards as well. So I used to be a beach lifeguard and they work from 10 until 6. But in August, there was a big festival in Newquay. And I think it's one of the most famous within the UK, at least anyway. It's called Boardmasters and it's
Uh-huh.
attached to a surf competition. I think that's how the festival started. So there's the surf competition that is linked to the World Surf League, the World Series, all of that. And then this festival grew and grew and grew. And it's right next to the beach. So when you mix a festival and the beach, there is the potential for things to go wrong. So the Event Water Safety Company was brought in to provide some out of hours lifeguarding, so from 6 till 10. So I did that for a few days whilst the festival was on as well.
So were you able to enjoy the festival at the same time?
I did on the last day, on the final day. I went up the hill into the festival and saw I caught the last 20-30 minutes of Prodigy,
Okay.
if you know who Prodigy are.
Yeah, I mean, they've been around for ages. I remember going to see them at Leeds Festival when I was like 17, um, in their prime, maybe, which is surprising that they're still doing it. They're still going to all of these different festivals.
Yeah, I remember watching them. They were at Glastonbury this year, so I remember watching the Glastonbury highlights and seeing them, and then realizing when I was at the beach doing the out of hours lifeguarding, like, oh, it's them.
And what kind of music are you into? Because I've often mentioned that I'm pretty bad when it comes to music. That some people are really good at remembering all of the names of the artists, of the albums, knowing all of the lyrics off by heart, and actually discovering new sounds, new music. For me, I don't really care. I like listening to music, but podcasts always come first for me, which maybe makes me a bit of an exception, a bit of a weirdo. I'm not sure. Audience, you can draw your own conclusions with that. But yeah, are you into music? Do you have any specific genres of music that you're particularly into? Let us know.
So for me, I wouldn't say I have a particular genre that I am interested in. I like to listen to podcasts like yourself. I guess it depends what I'm doing, but I like a big variety. I think I get bored of music quite quickly. I if I find a piece of music, some maybe an album or just a couple of songs that I really like, I will kind of rinse and repeat. So
Uh-huh.
I will listen to them over and over and over again. Um,
And you
so I
ruin it.
really like them, listen to them for 2 weeks nonstop, and then I'm kind of bored of them. Um, so yeah, big mix, and I guess it depends what I'm doing. So I have a different playlist for gym, which tends to be either either kind of intense rock, somebody and it's shouting at you, screaming down your ear, which can help, or I guess some kind of rap, hip hop sort of songs as well. I quite like my the pop music, the really bad pop music that you'd expect to hear in a university nightclub.
Uh-huh.
I find that all very good for, say, like cardio exercise, so like running and things like that. Um, and yeah, and then just bits of other things, some hip hop, some other rock, some more relaxed music,
All
and
sorts. A little bit of
everything
everything, right?
everything in between. Yeah, and a little bit of, I guess, like 70s and 80s sometimes as well. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Fantastic. Sorry, I had to move around and bring my curtains in because British weather, it's so unpredictable. As I mentioned, it's been pouring it down all morning, and I'm recording this right in front of some big windows. So as you were speaking, I could feel like my eyes were watering almost because the sun was going directly straight into me. And I was like, ah, I'm being blinded.
That is the worst feeling, isn't it? I went out for dinner. What was it? Oh, that was the for my birthday. It wasn't on my birthday, but yeah, my dad took me out for dinner, and where the restaurant we were in had a conservatory, and we were out kind of all surrounded by glass, and this it was in the evening, so the sun was setting, and I was just getting blasted in the face by the sun. So I actually sat there with my sunglasses on inside. But I think
The cool
sometimes
look.
you've just got to do it.
Just got to get on with it. You just got to deal with it. Now,
Exactly.
returning to this lifeguarding, because some people may not know this, but when I was 14 years old, I think, or maybe 13 years old, I did a swimming pool lifeguard course because at the time I knew that I wanted to start working and get some like extra pocket money to be able to go out and do different things and see my friends because, of course, I'd have some kind of like allowance from my parents where they'd maybe give me a fiver a week, or maybe if I was good, a tenner a week to be able to do different stuff. But it was never enough to actually be more independent. So I was weighing up different options for part time work. I was thinking about, well, continuing the paper round that I was doing, or maybe training to be a waiter with the view of maybe being a barman, or other classic kind of jobs that people do when they're 15, 16, etc. And I thought, all of these options sound a little bit boring, or I don't want to be in a bar. And I thought, ah, I could do a lifeguard course because I'd heard about this. And at the gym where I used to go, you'd always have lifeguards that were literally just sat down in front of the swimming pool doing nothing for hours on end. And I heard that they got paid like £8 an hour, which for a 15, 16-year-old is pretty goddamn good. So I ended up doing this course. I'm not the strongest swimmer, but I'm strong enough to be able to pass it. So I passed the course. I started applying for different jobs at different swimming pools and gyms. And this was my, maybe not dream, but my aim to get one of these jobs to save up some money. And I got rejected everywhere I applied. There was no
Oh,
availability. They didn't want me. So
oh
in
no.
the end, I had to kind of shift my plans and start working at a local primary school as a creche assistant, which it was good in the end, but it wasn't as well paid as these lifeguard gigs. So this is something that I wish I had done, or I wish they had given me the opportunity to do, but it just didn't work out in the end. But did you do the same thing? Have you ever worked as a lifeguard in a swimming pool?
No, so I actually wanted to. So I did surf lifesaving as a kid. So when I was six, I can't remember when it was, the earliest possible opportunity, I got my beach lifeguard qualification, which you need in order to apply for different lifeguard jobs, but also things like surf instructing. So at the time, I was already helping with some surf lessons as like an assistant coach. And then as soon as I got my beach lifeguard qualification, I was able to lead different groups. So I had that. And then when I was looking at going to university, I was thinking about doing different jobs on the side, and I thought that being a pool lifeguard would be a pretty good fit.
Mhm.
But it turned out that just because you have one qualification, it doesn't mean you can get the other one, or that you get any sort of helping hand with the other. So it would have meant that I would have had to do the whole course and take a week off work at the time to do it. And I decided against it eventually. I decided it wasn't worth the hassle of doing it, which was a shame because I think it would have been a good job.
Like I said, my kind of impression of the job was just looking at people that were more or less my age, just sitting down for hours and hours,
Just
just like
twiddling their thumbs.
twiddling their thumbs, maybe sometimes sneakily going on their phone. And I was like, and they get £8 to do this. This is mental. This is amazing. So it didn't work out in the end, but it could have happened. It could have happened for both of us, but it wasn't meant to be.
Wasn't meant to be.
All right, now moving on to another thing that you mentioned just before we started recording. And I also mentioned in passing that 17, 18 years ago, I crashed my car, my mum's car. But hey, we'll not get into that today because I've told the story on an upcoming podcast. So wait for that. It's an interesting one. Don't miss it. But Finn, you mentioned that yesterday you got the train and you drove a lot because over the last few weeks you've been looking to buy a new car. So have you been successful? Have you got the car now?
Yes, I have eventually I've been successful. So I can't remember when I first started looking, but my old car, which I thought was perfectly fine, the both of the back doors weren't working, and our
Perfectly
mechanic
fine.
perfectly fine. Uh, the mechanic said that for the amount it would cost to fix both of them with the parts and the labor that he would need to do. And then there were a couple other minor things that weren't any, yeah, nothing major, just kind of minor things to fix, but it all adds up. He
Mhm.
said it just um, wasn't worth fixing it essentially. So I had a bit of a deadline, a bit of a rush. So my MOT and my insurance were both going to expire the next week. So I had, I didn't have very much time to find a car. And being in the very southwest of England as well, it makes it quite difficult to get the cars, or very expensive to have them delivered. So it was I was in a bit of a pickle, basically. And I ended up buying one from Birmingham in the middle of the country and brought it home, took it to the mechanic for a once over. So for like a quick check, just to make sure everything's okay. And everything was not okay. So I ended up having to give that car back. But I was also going to Cardiff, so I had to get someone to come to Cardiff from Birmingham to pick it up. And then I was supposed to be getting a different car, but then that one fell through. So that just ended up not happening. And then yesterday, after about a month of this nightmare, I had to catch a train from Cardiff to, which is, I guess, in line with London, if we're talking geographically. So Cardiff up to Crewe, which is just south of sort of Manchester, Liverpool. And then, so that was about 3.5 hours on the train, I want to say. And then went to the dealership, drove it around and did everything that you need to do. That took a few more hours, and then I drove it back to Cardiff so that I could get all of my stuff. And then I had to drive back to Cornwall, which was, each journey was about 3.5, 4 hours. So a long day.
Sounds horrible.
Yeah, but I am at home successfully with a car, which hopefully is okay. We're going to take it to the mechanic again, so that he can give that one a once over, and hopefully we will have the all clear, the thumbs up.
Fingers crossed for you. I'm sure everything will go well. After all of this effort and movement, getting trains, driving around, going to the mechanic, doing your MOT, all of these things, like, I'm sure it'll be worth it. It will be worth the hassle. Let's hope so.
Hopefully, yeah. If I can keep the car for a good number of years and do a lot of trips in it, then it will all be worth it in the end.
Great. And you used a couple of nice expressions. One that I've remembered was in a pickle. So I was in a bit of a pickle. If you're in a pickle, you're in a tricky, complicated situation. So when the car failed the MOT, or they discovered that there were problems with the car, it put you in a bit of a pickle.
Yeah, that's a good expression, isn't it? Yeah, so things were just, everything was going wrong, and I didn't know what to do. There wasn't a clear, easy answer. So yeah, I was in a pickle.
Exactly. Now, speaking about cars, and then we'll wrap up this week's conversation. Do you actually enjoy driving? Because I know there are certain people who see cars and driving as a bit of a passion and a hobby. Other people just see it as like a means of transport to get you from A to B. I'm probably more in this camp, but what about you? Is driving and cars a source of, I don't know, interest, passion, and a hobby for you? Or are you more like me? And do you see eye to eye with me in viewing it as just a means of transport?
So yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm a petrol head by any means. So I'm not fascinated by different cars. I don't know, that doesn't interest me. So if I had lots of money, if I won the lottery, a car isn't the first thing that I would buy. Um, well, we'll see. Maybe it would be, but a nice fancy car isn't something that's high up on my list. But that being said, I do enjoy driving. Well, long trips. I do enjoy sitting on the motorway for hours and listening to a podcast, especially when it's kind of quite quiet on the motorway and you can just sit and relatively relax,
Uh-huh.
because I guess it can be quite an easy, relaxing, easy thing to do. You can have the podcast on or listen to music, but it's also productive. You need to go to this other place. So it's not like you are wasting time. It's not like you are procrastinating or just being lazy. So I enjoy that.
Mhm. So you're somewhere in the middle. You're not a petrol head, but you like sitting back behind the wheel, listening to your podcasts, and just, traveling around, which, if it's good weather in particular, and you're driving around these country roads around Cornwall, I imagine there are moments when there'll be a lovely sunset and you're looking out at all of the fields and the beach and thinking like, yeah, this is the life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I definitely enjoy that. And that helps me to appreciate where I am as well, especially if I've had a period of time with lots of classes, for example, and I'm just kind of at home. I don't get to go out and kind of see everywhere and remember how beautiful Cornwall is. But I guess also as well with the long journeys on the motorway, there's always a trip to McDonald's, a stop at McDonald's. So that's another bonus that I enjoy.
You can stop by for a quick McFlurry and then hit the road.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, anyway, we'll call it a day there and we'll finish off this conversation podcast. And as I said, Finn will be back again in, who knows, maybe a month, something like that. So if you have any questions that you'd like to ask him or ask me, or that you'd like us to discuss as a duet, then leave them in the comments. And of course, feel free to check out Finn's YouTube and Instagram. And maybe this will push him to make some more YouTube videos. Right, Finn?
Yeah, I think it's given me a nudge in the right direction, a little bit of a push. So fingers crossed, hopefully we will see some more long form, well, just some long form content from my end.
Awesome. So watch this space, everybody. And Finn, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much for watching or listening, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to being back.
My pleasure. See you later, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.